I was able to get you really good coverage because of Kings of Fish.
Wow. So for those of you listening, another reason why storytelling is essential.
Yeah.
Price tag's still on there.
Oh my God.
And the name brand of the shirt.
On today's episode, I'm excited to be joined by John Parkhurst and Michael Bibeau. Bibeau? Did I get that right?
Bibeau, you got it.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
John and Michael are part of the team at Trucordia, a company that helps developers and owners and builders manage construction risk and insurance with clarity and control. Their work connects the dots between design, finance, and the field, making sure every project stays protected and moves forward the right way. We've been talking a lot about how great ideas turn into real places, and these guys live that process every day. So, John, Michael, welcome to Fish Factor. How are we doing today?
Doing great, thanks. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
It's a pleasure.
Hey, just to kind of center the people that are listening, let's start this way. John, what's your role, and how long have you been with Trucordia?
So I'm the industry leader, the practice leader for the hospitality division of Trucordia. I've been with Trucordia now for about 7 years. We've just done a big rebrand, so Trucordia is a new name for us. We're the 16th largest brokerage in the United States, and we've got we're one of the top 20 U.S. brokerages in the United States. Inc. 5000 named us America's fastest growing brokerage in the United States, and we're one of the top 50 growing companies in Utah. Our headquarters are based in Utah.
Okay, I didn't know that. So same for you, Michael. Like a little bit of what's your role, title, background?
Yeah, so I'm a managing partner based in Irvine, California. Been in the business about 18 years now. Certified insurance counselor with Trucordia for 1 year now.
Okay. So I'm curious. I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot about Trucordia. I know we're working with you guys. I don't.
Yeah.
I do have some insurance background. Michael and I were texting about, but different than what you're doing. I was like right out of college, I had a job, or soon after college, with State Farm Insurance, and I worked in their auto section handling bodily injury claims, literally watching people I worked with die of heart attacks.
Yeah.
Just so, and I remember reading at some point, I don't know where I came across, like top 10 most, I don't know if it's not dangerous, but maybe most stressful, just like jobs, and like, claim negotiator was somewhere in the top 2 or 3. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do taking this job?
Why did I do this? That is so funny. So when I worked for Fireman's Fund, an insurance company that was actually the first insurance company to write an automobile policy in North America. Oh. I was the youngest employee when I started there, to your point. I think I was 28 years old. I was the absolute youngest person there. So we do have a need in our industry for young upcoming talent. So anyone that wants to get into insurance, let us know. Trucordia is growing like really? San Pedro Fish Market. So if you have any talent that you know about, send them our way.
Okay. I do have a couple of thoughts on that. So thanks for
Absolutely.
So let's go this way. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but if you've never heard of Trucordia, like, how do you describe what you do and who you help? Either guy, I don't really.
John, you can. John, you start with that, and I'll add to it.
Sure. So my niche has always been in the hospitality industry.
Okay.
A little more of a quick background. I actually opened up nightclubs for Walter Payton. Worked for 6 years. I had a sports bar for 10 years myself. Had a fine dining restaurant for 2 years. I was looking for another restaurant, and the gentleman that insured me for the 12 years said, "Hey, my niche is restaurants. You know it from the inside out. Why don't you get your insurance license, see how you like it?" So my first account 2 weeks after I got my license on a cold call was a 50,000 square foot entertainment complex for $200,000 in annual premium. Like, hey, why not? This is
wow.
I think I'm set for this. So what sets us apart with Trucordia, and I know Michael also has a hospitality background as well. We bring our hospitality aspect to the insurance side of the business. So we can speak your language. When Chicago got rid of the tip credit, I know your labor cost is going to go up. Your workers' comp is going to go up. We review your policies to make sure that you've got the best protection. So My first and foremost, I sell on coverage first and price second.
Okay.
So we need to make sure from a risk management standpoint that we've got all of our bases covered and that you're most protected for your type of business. So being specialized in the restaurant and the hospitality side, that's what we bring to the table, as well as the customer service aspect that you come to expect. You give that to your clients, we turn around and we do the same thing for our clients.
Yeah. Everybody complains about insurance until they need it.
Yes,
So
that's
I'm covered for this.
They're not the step on. So one of the things I always tell people is insurance is an intangible. You can't taste it, you can't feel it, you can't smell it. You walk into your restaurant and say, "Look at that new steam table I just bought." Look at these TVs. I just upgraded my sound system. Doesn't it sound great? You start talking about insurance, like, oh my gosh, I got to do this again. And then you get your policy, it goes in a drawer, it gets in an email. It just sits there. You don't want to think about it until you have to pay your bill or you have a claim. So, and that's when we come into play is when you've got your claim and we need to make sure that we've got that coverage that you need.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's right.
Did you have something there, Mike? Go for it.
Yeah, so I am an insurance broker, right, based in Irvine, and like John, I specialize in helping clients manage their risk from a full perspective. So it's D&O insurance for directors and officers, cyber insurance to protect companies from being hacked. My strength is I spent most of my career as an underwriter. So I worked for insurance companies, so I know exactly what an underwriter wants to see in a submission. And the thing I've learned from you, Michael, is how to tell a story, right? And I see that you tell stories so well. That's what I do with my underwriters. So the better I can tell your story, the better your price is going to be, the better your coverage is going to be. Your Kings of Fish show really helped me working on your account because I have an answer. I had an answer for every question that was thrown at me, and I'm actually just renewing one of the locations now. It's next week. And I already know everything about the location, about it. Right? I've watched every episode of Kings of Fish. So my job is to tell the story of what we call our insured, the company that's insured by us. The better I can tell the story, the better I can paint the picture, the better your price is going to be, the better your coverage is going to be. And so I really specialize in that from being an underwriter for so long, working for Fireman's Fund and Allianz, and way back when I started Philadelphia insurance companies. I know exactly how to put it on a silver platter. I know how to take all the data we receive from Jennifer, and we can take that data and serve it up to Travelers and Liberty Mutual and the Hartford and all these companies. So that's real. That's what I do in a day. Every single day, I'm fighting the battle to protect the companies we work with. Really,
that's great. So a couple of things that I think I want to hit on there. One, I can't tell you how many times we have this conversation in the family. Is why are we doing to me? Sorry, directed at me.
Yeah,
sure. We're doing this stupid Kings of Fish show. It's not a waste of time. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
And I've had multiple episodes now on this show where people have had some version of what you just said, of where it actually was valuable to them in a way that I didn't even anticipate. That it was helpful.
When we did the Landing 2.0 insurance for general liability, I had the underwriters watch all the episodes. I'm like, you need to understand what they're doing. So they were in this physical location. They're outside. They've taken these shipping containers. They've turned them into a kitchen. I'm like, this is great. This should be a flagship account for you. So I was able to get you really good coverage because of Kings of Fish.
Wow. So for those of you listening, another reason why storytelling is essential. Otherwise, you're just another business.
You did all the homework for it. You just handed it right over on the video. So it was great.
Well, the same thing's happening now because, we've got we're trying to, so for those who don't know the audience, you mentioned Jennifer. Jennifer's my sister, and she's essentially our financial director. But in addition, as the challenges that we've had, we had the pandemic, and I'd actually, well before I knew you guys, we had captive insurance through another company. Pacific Advisors helped put it together. And nobody understood, why are we spending this premium for this captive insurance? Until the pandemic hit, and one of the coverages was pandemic insurance.
Wow.
Which I don't even think you can get that anymore, I assume. But that paid out like at the very end of 2020 when we were on the verge of, oh my God, how are we going to make payroll? Everybody's shut down. Like, we'll pay out policy limits for you if you just let it go, let the claim go. I'm like, that's fine. Wow. And that was, 7 figures. So it actually helped us get some debts paid off, cover payroll, and get through the rest of the pandemic. And it came in a couple of times. It came in handy also. Like I actually would say that coverage, that policy alone, that company really is what's kept us alive the last 3 years through the displacement.
Wow.
Because so I don't know if you offer that type of insurance coverage, but essentially all those unused premiums, it's kind of like self-insurance, right? We had it in a separate
Yeah.
account, but we were able to borrow against it to get us through what happened with the parking lot situation. Because, even though on one hand, people look at it and go, Jesus, that's got to be the most successful parking lot in the history of parking lots. You're doing like,
Yes.
$11 million out of a parking lot with temporary kitchens. True. But the problem was on their own, they are profitable, but we have a lot of corporate overhead of all the teams that we built to help expand. And they're
Wow.
not necessarily profitable enough to cover those corporate expenses, at least not with 2 quarters of rain that we've had the last 2 years.
Yes.
So that line of
So,
credit that we were able to borrow against the assets in the captive company, or what was the captive company before we spun it off, was what we had to borrow and use, which was the purpose all along. Because I didn't know, we're going to get displaced at some point. I think at some point they're going to say, get out of this building, because otherwise we're stopping the West Harbor project, which wasn't all we
wow.
wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so this was a way for us to put some cash aside, insure ourselves against issues that happened, and also have something we could draw on to keep us moving. So, I mean, it's a different kind of insurance that we're doing with you, but so ultimately it's still insurance that if we
Yes.
didn't have it, it wouldn't
Yes.
have, we really would have been dead. I don't know what we would have done, honestly.
Wow.
So,
Well,
um,
Michael, we absolutely do have captive programs. We have
oh,
our own captive. We
didn't know
also
that.
represent other third-party captives that we can go to. So it's certainly something we can talk about. You are on what we call guaranteed cost, like you said. Your
Mm-hmm.
coverages are really good, and you're at that point where you can go either direction. You're certainly big enough to consider the captive market, which was obviously very well done, and that story is incredible. I will
Oh,
never forget that. Yeah.
yeah, okay, great. I didn't know you offered that, so that's fantastic. I was gonna say, so in the intro we were talking. I spoke a lot about development and construction. Is that pretty accurate for what you guys specifically do in hospitality? Or are you not involved with that? Is it more the company? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so our company definitely specializes in construction. I do have some construction clients, but
Okay,
I, like John, lean towards hospitality.
okay, got it.
So John and I, we really focus on hospitality. The construction teams are Northern California, in California at least. But we
Mhm.
do have, yes, we do have full blown construction teams. And so if you ever, when you go under construction for Monterey, and any other location in the future, yes, that's something we can and will help you with.
There's
And
a lot of things pending right now that are all
yeah,
about to start moving very, very fast because they're all
okay,
on time. They're all like very time sensitive. So we'll definitely talk about that for sure.
yeah,
What
Yeah,
would
and
you say? Yeah, go ahead, John.
we take you from beginning to end. So we start with your builder's risk. So we get the builder's risk started for you while you're under construction.
Great.
And then we put the package policy in place. So we're doing your general liability, your liquor liability, your workers' comp,
Wow.
your EPLI insurance, your liquor liability, cyber insurance. So,
Cool.
soup to nuts, we carry you from beginning to end through that whole process for you. So you
So
don't have to.
I know there's also, so you said cyber. What I'm also wondering, so one of the things that I've noticed and always been concerned about is our identity in the social media space. And to me, like, it just seems like you give the wrong person the wrong incentive and they can really damage your identity. Like every time we've opened a new location, it's really rocky for the first few weeks. And you'll notice Yelp is like, it's all on there. Every complaint about price,
Of course.
not
of
the same.
course,
It's different. The flavor. What do they think? One star,
Right.
one star, one star, one star, one star. And it's always occurred to me, and I saw this happen in a political arena. Somebody spoke out in a political opinion that other people didn't agree with, and if you went and looked, people organized so fast against damaging their identity on their Google reviews, their Yelp reviews, their Facebook reviews. And I'm wondering, like, is there coverage against something like that? I don't even know how you would
yes,
how do you
absolutely.
recover it? Like, what do you do?
So that would be reputational harm, and there's
Okay.
certainly with every insurance policy, you always have to have a covered peril. You have to have a covered cause of loss. So
Mm.
if there is something that's covered and it triggered reputational damage, absolutely your cyber policy would include that. Most package policies, which is general liability, property, auto, typically include some of that as well. So they'll include like any kind of libel, slander, any type of bad reputation in the marketplace. So there's typically two coverages for that. It can and does sometimes fall under cyber insurance, absolutely, but it also can fall under any kind of like libel, slander, media coverage, basically.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to say, because it seems like the wrong person with the right AI tool could do a lot of damage in a
Big time.
You wouldn't even know.
You're right. So, yeah.
It would happen so fast and so swift. And so that's what the cyber is designed for, exactly that. If they were to like take over your Instagram, shut down your website, any kind of email compromise, we call it BEC, business email compromise. So if someone were to get into your email and be able to watch you while you work, that's where most what we call invoice manipulation occurs. That is also covered under a cyber policy. Wow. So if you think you're paying $100,000 for bread from your vendor, but it actually went to Russia or to China, you're never going to see that money again, right? So that's where the cyber coverage comes in.
Wow. Well,
and it happens all the time. I have a manufacturing company that I insure. We just had $100,000 payout for a manufacturing company, and they had business email compromise that led to a shutdown of all their computers. So they had, we call it bricking. It means your computer is worth the same amount as a brick. So their computers became useless, and they had to buy every employee a new laptop. They're manufacturing the CNC machines that would actually push the metal and cut the metal stopped working. They had to get all new software. It was $100,000. They were down for about 2 weeks, and we got $100,000 payout for them.
I mean, we've had fraudulent issues where people copied checks and were selling them, and we couldn't get our bank to do much about it, and it just kept going on because they were small.
That is a great point.
Adds up.
That is a great point. Cyber actually includes paper. So it would include your checks. It would, in most cases, if there was fraud done on a computer. So it includes paper as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened multiple times where somebody managed to create a fake San Pedro fish check and pay themselves, or somebody named somewhere. And then, like, it's funny, they're cashing it through like Sears or Macy's or something.
Well, if that ever happens again, God forbid it ever does, let me know, because we can submit a claim somewhere, whether that's through your property policy or through your cyber policy. If that ever happens, let me know.
I would prefer it never happen. But that's what insurance is for, just in case.
Yes.
What kind of, so those are I was going to ask for some stories. I don't know if I want to hear anymore, but if you have any, we'll get to that too. I was going to ask.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, John has some pretty good stories from hospitality claims. I could tell you a few just slip, trip, and fall things that I've seen. I can go and, I'll start. So
yeah, go ahead.
My first job after high school was working for the Ritz-Carlton in Dana Point. So when I graduated high school, my parents moved to Dana Point. I was a valet parker a week after high school graduation. I got to meet Michael Jordan. I got to meet Sugar Ray Leonard, even Muhammad Ali, believe it or not. I actually got to park his car. His daughter was driving, obviously, and I even got to shake his hand. So one night there's a wedding, a little bit too much to drink maybe, and we're by the ocean, so you get that little dew. The ground is always a little wet at night, right? It's just kind of that dew. Someone came out in high heel shoes, walked right across the marble floor, slipped, tripped, cracked head open. Ambulance, emergency room, the whole thing. So that stuff like that you just, how do you underwrite for that? How do you, everything that could happen happened. The floor's a little wet. She's in high heels, maybe a couple too many glasses of wine, having a good time. Turns quickly on the ground, ER room. So, I mean, those are the things that you can't plan for. You can do some risk mitigation, obviously, but they're going to happen. There's going to be a wedding. There's going to be alcohol. There's going to be people having a good time. And before you know it, someone's hurt and they're going off to the ER. But that's one story I could share that one always stuck with me. And then when I got into insurance, I'm like, okay, they needed a wet floor sign. They needed a carpet to cover that marble floor. They needed someone standing there saying, excuse me, walk the other way. And that's the risk mitigation. That's where the safety element comes in. And that's something that is a service that we provide as well. But on that note, John, I know you have tons of stories. John was a bar restaurant operator too. So
Yikes.
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, And some of these tie back into like when Michael and I go out, one of the first things we like to do is do a policy review again to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and fill those gaps of coverage that you may not have. And unfortunately, in the world we're living in these days, a lot of carriers are starting to do assault and battery, either exclusions or sublimits, meaning if there happens to be a fight in your establishment. Unfortunately, some brokers don't always disclose that. And there's starting to be firearms exclusions on policies. So we have a standalone active assailant policy. And I just had a claim about 2 years ago in a restaurant similar to a TGI Fridays, family style restaurant, 10:30 at night. Gentleman's nodding off at the bar. Bartender cuts him off, starts arguing with the bartender. Manager comes over, says, "Hey, listen, don't worry about your tab. Let's get you a safe ride home tonight." Starts walking to the door, arguing with the bartender or the manager. He has a satchel across his chest. He reaches into his satchel and pulls out a gun. He turns around and empties his weapon, fires 18 shots into the bar.
Oh my God.
He grazes a 26-year-old girl in the temple. The reserve on that claim, luckily she wasn't killed. No one else was injured. The reserve on that claim right now is $3 million. Wow. So if you happen to have a policy with a firearms exclusions or a weapons exclusion, you're sitting out there in the wind, having to defend yourself and having to hire somebody to defend you and take care of that claim. So sadly, the environment where we're in these days, people are crazy, and unfortunately we're starting to see more and more of those. So, and when those things happen, similar to it can be difficult to get coverage for delivery. So for pizza restaurants. And the reason being, 10, 15 years ago now, Domino's Pizza with their 30 minutes less or free. They ended up, a young child was killed on a delivery in a neighborhood. Oh. And it was a large judgment. And every insurance company went, "Hey, wait a minute. We're not covering pizza delivery anymore. Like, this is dangerous. You got kids out on the road that are trying to get there as fast as they can to make their tips." So, when you start having a frequency of claims in a certain type of area or certain type of claim, that's when insurance companies start changing their policy form, and you need to fill those gaps with other types of coverage, which again, that's what we're in the business to do for you.
I know the first claim I had, like when I worked in State Farm, was a young couple. They had 2 or 3 kids. Mom was bringing kids, I think, dropping them off at school and going back home. But instead of going through the intersections, it was a major intersection that she was going to cross with a lot of lights. But she decided to cross at the stop signs and go it's like 8 lanes on a pretty major street in Torrance, actually. Sure. And this woman was flying down and T-boned the car. Nobody died. There were some injuries, though, right? And I didn't understand any of this stuff. It was like my first claim. I really didn't know what to do. And I remember talking to the husband, because they were my insurer. I represented the couple. And I'm like, "We got $30,000 coverage." And this is an older woman. And it was funny because ironically, this thing went on almost until I quit to move back into work for my family, which was less stressful than that job. But I remember he didn't "What am I supposed to do? I'm an engineer over here. I only make $60,000 a year. This is all I can afford." I go, "I don't know what to tell you, but I think it's going to cost more than that. And we can only do what we can do to protect you." And it was ironic because as time passed, one of my best friends is a physical therapist, and it turned out that I found that out later. The woman that was injured, the claimant, was his patient. And she would go in there and was complaining, "I'm going to take these people for everything they have," and blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Well, I don't work there anymore, but I can tell you they ain't got anything except their house." They have their house, but it's like you don't expect something like that to happen, and it's California. It's tough to win those things. So
sure.
That always stuck with me as just how important it can be, because you never know when you think you're doing the right thing and just trying to get the kids back and get them to school on time, and your whole life changes from one.
Sure.
And you're right. And if their house is all they have, the lawyers will go after that house. And sadly, right? It's really sad. And so, a good umbrella policy or something to protect them. But that is a great point that, even if that's all they have, they'll take it,
I know. I mean, I had one of my family members was in an accident. This was 30 years ago, 25 years ago. But it was a pretty serious incident. And I remember seeing people going through our trash cans. I'm like, what the hell's going on? But I realized later when I worked at State Farm, I'm like, oh, I was an investigator, somebody that the attorneys hired to go and see if they could find some bank statements or something that were discarded to see if we had any value. That's how dirty it could get,
Oh, it
Wow.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael mentioned umbrella coverage. I've got a claim, what you would think would be a simple slip and fall at a restaurant. Again, a restaurant in a mall. Gentleman walks out of the mall, into the mall area, drops his to-go food, and just keeps walking. Doesn't stop to pick it up. Hostess picks up the food, wet floor, picks up the food. She goes to get a wet floor sign. In the meantime, another gentleman walks out right over the wet spot on the floor, slips and falls. He has brittle bone disease.
Oh, worst case scenario.
Exactly. That claim settled for $1.3 million.
Wow.
I remember we've had so many of those slip and falls, but thankful for cameras. You're like, okay, there's the person. They just sat down on the floor, looked around, and started screaming.
Wow.
There was nothing there for them to slip on. But if we didn't have the cameras, you wouldn't know. It was like, who's going to prove that? So,
cameras are
that's right.
Useful tool now because you do have those incidents as well. So somebody, they'll come in, they say they slipped and fell, but then they sit down and they have a few cocktails and they have dinner. Sometimes you might even see them up dancing, walking fine to the bathroom, and then they come back. It's like, I broke my ankle in your restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought you were dancing on one foot, and didn't know what was going on. I thought it was just your pogo. Yeah, you never. Yeah, it's a crazy stuff. And again, it's like people don't. Why do I have to pay all this money for insurance? It's because you might need it, and it's going to be a lot more if you don't have it. And
Sure.
I
That's
think
right.
that's missing for a lot of people.
And in California, when it comes to fraud, you both made really good points, but workers' comp fraud in California is just outrageous. So if you ever have a workers' comp claim that you think is fraudulent, I have a friend who runs a private investigation company. I would highly recommend it. If you think someone got injured playing soccer on a Sunday, they come to work Monday and fall down and they're injured. I do have a friend who runs an investigation company. I would highly recommend that for workers' comp because it's just outrageous in California.
It sucks because you don't want to think of your own employees. I mean, we try to think of it like one of our core values is family. And people in the company think, well, that's because you're family owned and operated. I go, no, it's because we want all the people that work here to feel as if they're part of our family.
Yes,
and that's key. But there are some cases where that still happens regardless, and you don't want to create people that way in your thinking. But it is what it is, unfortunately.
Sure,
that's right. Yeah, especially as you grow. When you grow, that's when you see the most opportunity for claims, for fraudulent claims, right? Because when you're growing like San Pedro is, you're going to open new locations. You're going to hire people you have no background with. You don't know. They're not from your community, really. If you're growing out of your community, that sort of a thing, you're going to be exposed to new potential claims, right?
And the average person doesn't understand when you say, well, this business generates this much money. They assume that that's all profit and going in your pocket. I'm like, no. It's the restaurant industry.
Right.
Like basically, if it's $1, every 90 cents is going to just running a business. And if out of that 10 cents is left, half of that's probably going to taxes. So you're lucky if there's a nickel on every dollar that comes in.
Sure.
And that's got to go into reinvestment and savings. And so it's really not that much unless you're doing tremendous volume. And over time, you can stack it up. But it doesn't
take much to wipe out that 10%. You're in, depending on your market, in the Chicago area, you get a major snowstorm on a Friday or Saturday night in January. You lose that Friday and Saturday sales. That could wipe out your profitability for the entire month. Yeah. That could take you from the black to the red overnight, because you're going to go buy a car the next day. You're going to go to the grocery store the next day. You're not getting those sales back from a lost revenue night. If it rains, you've got an outdoor patio and you count on 70% of your revenue on a beautiful summer night, and it rains all night long. You've lost all that revenue on that night. You're not getting that back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Relative to what we started with, or I was telling in the early part of the interview here, it's like moving into a parking lot and losing 2/3 of your sales, and yes, on paper individually they are profitable, but there's no profit in the business right now. So if I, for instance, as an owner, wanted to go and say take out a loan for something or refinance my house, on paper, my income is at a negative for the last 2 years. So I can't even qualify until we pull out of some of this. And that's like, it's not there for people because it's complicated. Actually, that kind of brings me to the next question. Like, what when you're working with clients, whether it's a prospect or even somebody that you already have as a client, what's like what how do you make the complex simple so they can understand the offer that you have? I don't even know if you have an answer to that,
That
but
is a great question. Well, I think of it like that. It's a really good question. I think we don't sell insurance, so to speak. Yes, we do, obviously, but we're selling clarity, right? We are selling, to your point, pointing out at the proposal, we've got liquor liability for $1 million. We've got assault and battery included into the occurrence and aggregate for you. So you got 2 million there, and just really simplifying it. I would just say it only comes through years of experience, right? Like I've been doing this 18 years. I'm also a certified insurance counselor. So I've worked on tens of thousands of insurance policies throughout my career. And I think that's what helps me, is just that's how I can make it simple, is to say, look, this is what's covered and here's how and here's why. But really, it's just understanding the contracts. So we sell contracts, right? And it's funny, you guys touched on this earlier, but with insurance, we sell something that no one really wants to pay for, right? But every business has to buy it, right?
yeah.
And really, everyone has to buy it, because you can't get a loan for a car without insurance. You can't get a loan for a home without insurance. So everyone's forced to buy it. No one wants to pay it. But then in time of need, that's when you realize the value, right? Like when you said, I have one of my large accounts in San Diego on Friday at 5 p.m. called me. We just had a major car accident. I'm going to send you the police report. I'm going to send you photos. Can you file this for me right now? So 5 until 6 p.m. on Friday of last week, I was submitting a total loss on their vehicle,
Wow.
injured employee, and so that's when they see the value, to your point. Wow. And they're calling me this week. Thank you so much. Okay, we got the rental car. He's fine. Our employee's going to be fine, just a little banged up. But that's when they see the value. So I think really just pointing out the highlights, understanding the contract, and then putting it in English, putting it in plain English, like as much as we can, take that contract and make you understand it. Cyber does this. EPLI does this. Workers' comp does this. And that's all done at the proposal for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we break it down into its most simplest form. So, like the anecdotal stories we're talking about, the importance of each one of the coverages that we go through. So, when I sit down with a friend and a client, and I try to do it on an annual basis, because you don't always remember what's in your policy and what's covered for.
right.
One example is business interruption. We've
Mm.
got off-premise power failure. So if you lose power on a Friday night, is your company going to cover you at the second your power goes out, or do you have a 72-hour waiting period on your business interruption? Another big point in policies, a lot of big carriers, it's a 24, maybe even a 72-hour waiting period. So if power goes out on Super Bowl Sunday, with some carriers, you have zero coverage.
Wow.
With a lot of the policies that we try to get you to a zero deductible on your business interruption. So we try to break that down, and I'll sit down and like, oh my God, my power went out 6 months ago. I should have called you. Like, well, we still have time. If it was a Monday and sales were low, it may not be worth putting that claim in. Insurance too is more for catastrophic events. You don't want to nickel and dime the insurance companies. That's when your rates start going up. You have a frequency of claims, but by all means, and that's what we're there to help you through the claims as well. This is one that maybe you should help on your own. It's just it's going to be $500 over your deductible. Maybe you should absorb this one on your own. Hey, no, this is a major claim. This is why you pay insurance. We need to work with you and let's get the adjuster involved and put the claim in for you.
Cool.
So first and foremost is breaking it down to the most simple form so you understand every single line of coverage that you have. And then let people know at the end of the conversation, if you ever have a question on coverage, call us. We'll walk you through it. And at some point, we'll just let the adjuster make like, you know what? Could be a little gray area, but we're going to make a fight for you. Let's put the claim in and work with the adjuster with you on this one.
That's fantastic. There's two things before we wrap up. One, thank you, because Trucordia is actually officially a sponsor for not only Fish Factor, but Kings of Fish. So we'll have some, I'm sure we're going to come up with some really cool storylines regarding insurance and threats that we deal with. And you guys have been helping us out in the background once we get season 2 done.
Absolutely.
The last thing before we wrap up is if each of you could share, if you have one, a story of where, let's say like something sort of heartwarming. Like this made my job worth it. Thank God I was able to help this person through a situation. You shared a couple, but I'm curious if there's one in particular that stands out.
Yeah, I can share. I can start with one I just had happen actually this month. So we insure a wine bar in Huntington Beach. Client for 4 years. They started during COVID. Hard time to start a new wine bar, and she had the worst pricing she could get because she was new in business, no loss runs, wine bar in the name, right? So every underwriter's like, we don't insure bars for the most part. I mean, John has specialty programs for bars and we do have bar coverage, but most admitted top tier carriers, Travelers, the Hartford, Liberty Mutual, all the big carriers you're familiar with, they won't write a bar for the most
Oh,
part,
wow.
unless it's through a special program. So what I was able to do is I was able to go to Mercury Insurance. Shout out to Mercury Insurance. I guess if you leave that in there, a little plug for Mercury. Their local sales rep came out to see us, told us, hey, we want to double down on some small business restaurants under 5 million in sales. So perfect. I have one coming up in a couple weeks. They're currently non-admitted, which means the form is a little limited. Non-admitted means they're not domiciled in the state of California. It's usually in Bermuda, and all their forms are not filed with California.
Okay.
So we have to notify the insured you're buying a second rate policy. And in a way, I mean, you can get great coverage non-admitted, but you didn't get the Travelers and the Hartford and Liberty Mutual. And the reason was has the name bar in her title. She's new in business, no loss runs. So we could not get her a good price. I got to quote her with Mercury Insurance and save her $28,000. Now this is a small business. 28,000 to her is a couple months of her profit,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh, that's
so
fantastic. Yeah.
she called me and she's like, I cannot believe you did this. This is incredible. What were we doing wrong in the past? I said, no, it's not that you weren't doing anything wrong in the past, but you are a wine bar and the name of the restaurant is Wine Bar. And you had no loss runs. You had no history. Now you have 4 years of no losses. I was able to get them to look past the name to see what you are. You're a restaurant who serves expensive bottles of wine. And that's why your alcohol sales are more than 50% of the sales. And every underwriter wants to know, what are your percentage of alcohol sales? If it's over 30%, the underwriting tightens way up. So there's our 55%, I think, for alcohol. I said, listen, a salmon is $40. I told the underwriter, back to the painting the picture, telling the story. Listen, they're selling a $40 piece of salmon and an $80 bottle of wine. So that's why their alcohol sales are more than 50%. They're like, oh, that's a good point. Okay. And I'm like, look, it says wine bar in the name. This is a restaurant. This is a high-end ocean adjacent restaurant with good food, good drinks. And yeah, we saved her $28,000. That just made me feel good. I could almost hear like tears when she called me. Like, I can't believe you did this. This is incredible. Thank you.
Wow, that's right. Well, great story.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's one of them, but we have more. And John, I know you have some.
Yeah, let's hear one, John.
So yeah, I've got two quick ones. One, there was years ago, there was a company, an insurance company, and I use that term lightly. It was called Indemnity Insurance. It was basically a Ponzi scheme. There was a large nightclub chain that actually was insured by them. One of my large clients was looking to move their insurance from me to another broker with Indemnity Insurance. Would have saved them $40,000 a year on their insurance.
Wow.
I read through the policy form. I knew a little bit about them. And I said, listen, not a great policy form. This is why you should stay. Like you do, we build relationships with our carriers. We've got a great relationship with Badger Mutual at this point. They've never denied us a claim. I think you're taking a big risk. I said, if you have a shock loss that first year with Indemnity Insurance, you could get dropped and you're not going to get coverage again. So at the last, literally at the fifth, at the 0 hour, they end up staying with me, not going with Indemnity Insurance. Within 6 months, the owner of the company was indicted on federal charges.
Ooh, that's not good.
And with some of the claims that had come through with my client, they would have been out of pocket $250,000 to $300,000 and could have potentially put them out of business. And we've got another one that just happened recently. We had, like Michael was saying, we had one of our clients was in the E&S market, non-standard market. Happened at the last minute. Insurance company non-renewed him. His premium was $100,000. We went with one of our partners, AmTrust, who's a great partner of ours. It was property claims is what got them to be non-renewed in the first place. Brand new roof. We explained to AmTrust, they've got a brand new roof. They're mitigating their damages. They're not going to put in these types of claims. We really need you to take a strong look at this one. The very next year, AmTrust stepped up, took them on along with their other 6 restaurants, and brought their insurance premium from $100,000 back into an admitted market down to $35,000, which is obviously more manageable for a restaurant owner. Our relationships and partnerships that we have with our carriers, we can get those types of things done in order to get people the best coverage for the best price.
Yeah, those are fantastic. We'll have conversations sometimes on the business side. Well, that'll never work. I hate that because all that tells me is you're not thinking outside the box, which I hate that metaphor too, by the way. But
right.
But the problem with it is when you assume there's no way to move forward in a situation, you've sort of framed it that way. You can't see outside the frame. And when I zoom out of our 70 years, everything we've been successful with in our business is impossible.
Wow.
I was just thinking about a company, and I don't want to name the company, but they were. I was reaching out to them during the pandemic because their focus was to create essentially mobile kitchens. They were buying parking lots from what I remember, and they were setting up mobile kitchens in these parking lots as a way to go to third-party Grubhub or DoorDash and find your favorite brand. And instead of that company having to build brick and mortar in that city or state, they could send you the food through essentially a ghost kitchen, but it would be in a parking lot. And that company's gone. Like, it didn't make it. Wow. And I was talking to a local business professional here where I'm at, and he's like, what you guys just pulled off in San Pedro to open this temporary location with 1,600 seats on 32,000 square feet with these temporary container kitchens that you had built, that's what that other company was trying to do nationally, and they couldn't do it, and that's why they went out of business. So I go, oh shit, well excuse my language, but that's why it took us 30 months to do, because it's freaking impossible.
Wow.
I didn't have, like the VC backing or a major company that was, or even major brands. We just had ourselves trying to figure it out. And I was telling the whole company today, I go, be proud of what we pulled off. As painful as it was, and as long as it took, the fact that we didn't give up and we stayed focused on what we were after is really, I think, what separates successful people from those that don't make it. I think a lot of times it's just tenacity, not giving up.
Yes.
But you need a good partner, and Trucordia can be that partner from what we just heard, everybody. So keep them in mind for your insurance needs. And I think with that, I'm going to stop talking and wrap it up. Thank you guys for being on the pod today. It's great having you as a guest on Fish Factor, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for
All right.
What a pleasure.
That's it. Signing off.
Price tag's still on there. And the name brand of the shirt.